I didn't intend to be in politics that early, because at that age when I was asked, I was only 29 years old when I was asked. I didn't intend to go into politics that early. I always was a keen student of politics. My family has been involved in politics. I felt that I had something to contribute in politics, but I always thought it would be later on in my life, because I really wanted to be settled. I don't want politics as a career. I don't want it to be something that I make money from. That has never been my intention at all. So I wanted to be very, very stable before entering that. Yes, I was at the time, but it came a bit too soon. If I had to choose, I would have definitely waited until later on, start my family, get that out of the way, and so on and so on, and then contribute. Because St. Kitts, obviously, St. Kitts and Nevis has been tremendous to me, providing me a platform for my academic and for my music career that, really, really helped me. So it was a difficult decision, but at the time, I've been a lifelong supporter of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party and its philosophy. And at the time, my services were required. And as a true patriot of this country, if you're called to battle, you have to show up.
Wherever you're headed in St. Kitts or Nevis, SKN Cabs gets you there quickly, safely, and hassle-free.
Well, girl, where you going? You got a suitcase?
Girl, I'm going on a little trip here, so I come get me here fix up.
Oh, well, you got a lift to go to the airport?
Girl, no, you know. You could carry me? And you know nobody who could drop me?
Girl, you got an app called SKN Cabs.
SKN Cabs?
It's an app where you could book rides to go anywhere. Even if you want to go down in town and pay your bill, you could use it.
Yeah.
All you have to do is go on. Where you got Apple?
Yeah, I got Apple.
Go on the App Store.
Booking with SKN Cabs is easy. Enter your pickup and drop-off locations. Select your payment method and get connected to a driver. Simple, fast, and reliable.
The driver has arrived.
Oh, just on time.
Yes, just on time indeed. You know, I'm early for my flight. Would you like to go for lunch?
Sure.
We could go to Zanzi.
Of course.
Yeah, let's go.
From everyday rides to luxury travel, we've got the perfect ride for you. Book in seconds, ride with ease, and enjoy the convenience you deserve. Download the SKN Cabs app today from the Play Store or App Store and stay connected with us on WhatsApp, Facebook, or Instagram at SKN Cabs. SKN Cabs, transportation made easy.
I tolerate men.
We live in a risky world, you know? Yeah. So I can say. And, we explore.
Men should always spend on a woman.
Appreciation is a big man.
Welcome back and welcome to another episode of the Perspectives Podcast. Today is the first of something quite unique, you know. It's the first time I'm here interviewing a sitting minister of government, the Honorable Konris Maynard. How are you?
I'm well, and yourself, how are you doing?
I'm good. Doing quite well. But today, the purpose of this interview, from my perspective, is to find out the man behind this legendary Calypsonian who has become now a successful politician. So let's start with your origin stories. Who is Konris Maynard?
Right, so if we could go back, I was born in the year of our independence, 1983 actually.
It's a special year.
A special year, just before independence itself. So I was born in July, so my birthday is just a few days away actually. And from there, from very early on, I've always been, I'm told, I was always not shy to be, making a stage and performing. So in preschool, they would put me up for shows, and apparently I had a wonderful presentation of On Top of Spaghetti in preschool one time. And then from there, I would get calls to participate in a lot of church programs, Sunday afternoon programs that you're having, etc. And then about age 6, I attempted to write my first calypso. There was a ruler that we got in school, probably was in grade 1, that said drugs are double trouble. Make it a rule to just say no. And so I used that to start dabbling and created what would have been my first melody.
But why calypso?
At 6. Well, my father was a calypsonian, or he would say he still is, the mighty contender. So by age 6, I would have known about, a lot of what he was doing. In fact, I recall when I was 3 years old, he had a song, Living in the Band, which won Road March that year. And I remember my mother putting me on the truck that he was singing on. And I can just remember he was pulsating with a lot of sweat. There's a guy on iron beating and so on. And I remember my mother had my baby sister in her arms. And so I guess that influence would have seeped into things, but my influence really is spanned broad. I'm a big fan of Michael Jackson. I'm a big fan of pan jazz, but calypso, I guess, just was in the roots and is what I was exposed to at a very young age.
Right. Now, you said at age 6 you attempted to write your first calypso. What was that? Or do you have any memory of that?
Yeah, man. As I said, I saw the ruler. It said drugs are double trouble, make it a rule to just say no. I still remember the melody to this day that I tried to write. I probably used gibberish words to fill in, but I could remember performing it to my aunts, my uncles, and so on, etc. And so that was my first attempt at writing a calypso. And then my first official calypso I wrote at age 10.
At age 10. And was that for a competition of any sorts?
It wasn't, at that time, it wasn't for a competition. It was just, I decided to write a calypso. And
so what were your aspirations academically?
Right. So at that age, you just want to go to school and do well. In fact, that first calypso I wrote was about, the name was Cool School.
Right.
It was saying how important it is to go to school. So I was a 10-year-old. I was encouraging my friends and everybody that school is actually cool. So, it was promoting go to school, get a good education, and so on, etc. So it has always been that, yes, I love music. Yes, it's a part of me. But important to that is making sure that you have the academic background.
Right. Now, where did things go musically for you from age 10 throughout high school now? Well, age 10 you're in primary school, but you'd have gone to high school.
Right.
Where were things for you musically?
Right. So in 95, I think it was, so I would have been around 12 at that time, I decided to enter the junior calypso competition. So as I first entered primary school, that year I sang a song, We Gotta Fight. It was about drugs and drugs creeping into young guys' lives and so on, etc. I came first runner-up. The only time I ever came anything other than King in St. Kitts and Nevis was that first time, age 12, I came first runner-up in the junior calypso competitions.
So coming first runner-up, did that give you motivation to continue your spiritual bit?
No, man, no. I've always been, for whatever reason, I'm never perturbed by disappointment. In fact, it spurs me to move, try even harder. I have a particular philosophy in life. Anything that happens negative for me, anything that I don't succeed, the only person who's responsible for that is me. So if someone beats me for whatever reason, it's because I didn't do something good enough. So I'm just going to go back to the drawing board and figure it out. I'm not going to blame the system. I'm not going to blame the judges. I'm not going to blame anything else. It is myself and the gift and blessings of God that will help me to overcome. So that was definitely not a demotivating time. Actually motivated me to want to come back. So the next year I came back and I won the crown. Right?
What song you want with that?
I had a song called Boys in Danger.
What was that about?
So it was about, and it's something we're seeing happening now, so that's around 96 or thereabout, where I said that as I look around my class and I look around the community, young men are in danger, boys are in danger. They're the ones who are dropping out of school. Only girls are left, and this is not good for our future. And I lived to see the day when we have actually seen a fall off of the performance of men in a number of areas in our society.
Yes. And even academically, the statistics would show that women dominate academically now. Which
we need to shift. It shouldn't be one way or the other. It shouldn't be more women or it shouldn't be more men. It should be balanced. This life is always about balance. If we get the balance right, we will do well. But we have those imbalances. There was a time when women, girls were oppressed, they didn't have the right opportunities, especially in in our societies and so on. But no, there were a lot of things that facilitated the growth of women and so on. And now, most of the lawyers are women. Most of we don't even have, when you look at our healthcare system dominated by women, when you look at our teaching system dominated by women, we need balance. We don't need one or the other.
Well, I think teaching has always been dominated by women, though.
Well, no. In the early days, you'd find you'd have a lot of you'd have male teachers. But no, it's
naturally. How I look at that is women are more nurtured. So
that is true.
Children, especially younger children, I think they would have done better with the younger children.
Well, I remember there was a time when it was felt that women should really only stay at home. So almost all of the jobs and so on, etc., all the headmasters and so on, men and so on. But then that transition, what we need is balance.
Yes. So now, on your journey, you would have continued competing throughout high school within the junior calypso. Were you aspiring to be a full-time calypsonian, or you had your eyes set on academics?
Right. So that was always my dilemma. So even from a very young age, I knew that I wanted to make sure I did my academics and, educate myself to go on to do whatever I wanted to do. Back then, I really loved flying. I still love flying. I've flown. I've tried to fly a plane as well before, and I want to eventually, if possible, I would love to get my license to fly a plane. So
okay.
I love flying. I love the technology of flying, etc. So initially I wanted to become a pilot early on, but again, I also am big on family, and I knew that if I became a pilot, it would have me away from my family for a long time. So I kind of changed course on having to fly. But that has always been my dilemma. I always remember in my mind, should I do this thing full time, or should I just continue as a hobby and focus on my education? In the end, I did it more as a hobby. I just had good success with it as a hobby. And I would say I never gave it the all to become an all-out entertainer and performer. I chose family and academics.
Why though? Is it not a successful route traditionally in St. Kitts?
Well, that could be one thing, but then my personality has always been that if I go after something, I'm going to get it. So even if it were not successful, I would have the belief that the way in which I would approach it would be successful, whether I have to, do what I have to do. But then I made a decision, which one did I want to do? And it ultimately came down to my love for family, really.
Right.
Because I really wanted to, as an entertainer, that's always a challenging field when it comes to family.
Definitely.
Right? And I'm always been about settling down. I'm very strong on that, and having a family, having a partner, and so on, etc. And so, at the end of the day, I knew what the entertainment world really wanted or needed, right? And I have strong beliefs. I have strong Christian beliefs as well, and so perhaps the level at which or the intensity that would have been needed for me to focus on the entertainment industry in order to reach to the top may have distorted from some of my other values that are dear to me, especially when it comes to my family.
Right. Now, what were you focused on in terms of your career path outside of music?
Right. So after high school, in high school I did the junior calypso competition. I won 2 years in a row, and then I paused, kind of focused on music and do other things, some sports and drama and those things, etc. But at some point I realized that I love maths, favorite subject, and I love physics. I actually think that everybody should do physics in high school.
Wow.
I really think so, because physics gives you an amazing perspective on life. So you understand things a lot better when you have physics. So when, I just think, yes, we say math and English, but I believe that if everybody did physics, we will understand everything from the car you drive to the recorders that you have here, why it's working, how it works, and so on, etc. Just generally, just the laws of physics that govern how we live on Earth. I think physics. So I love physics. So I realized that, and I love geography as well. So I did those subjects which can facilitate me being a pilot, but also could facilitate me in engineering. I love, from a very young age, I love to dismantle and re-engineer things. I would take things apart. I would bring them back together.
Oh, you're one of them kids, huh?
Yes. So anything that needed fixing, the VCR broke, I was broken, I would think that I could fix it back. I had my grandfather in Nevis, who I visit all the time, and he had these clocks that wouldn't work. He said that he's taking it to everybody and they can't get the clocks to work. And I took the clocks and got them to work.
Wow.
Right? So I loved engineering. And so in high school, I continued to do the subjects that were for engineering and electronics and so on. And then after that, that's what I applied to go to university for, too.
Okay. So what was it like now? Because I heard that you went to the University of the West Indies. Which campus was it?
So I did 2 campuses. I started at Cave Hill. I did electronics. I started off with electronics. And then I moved on to engineering in St. Augustine.
So what was life like in Barbados and Jamaica versus life in St. Kitts?
Well, Trinidad. St. Augustine is Trinidad.
Yes, yeah. Trinidad.
So
Mona there, Jamaica. I apologize.
I'm not, as much as I'm an entertainer and performer on stage, I'm not a partier, right? So I would be the worst person to ask about life at university, because literally I went, I did my work, I focused on my work, I excelled extraordinarily. I went to a spectacular calypso tent in Trinidad once, and I went to a Marshall concert once.
I feel like that's unfortunate.
One time, my friends, my roommates took me to, in Barbados, I went to maybe one event. My friends were going, so my girlfriend, who is my wife at the time, she was also studying in Barbados. So we went to that, and I broached one party in St. Augustine. Just my boy.
So wait, you didn't get involved in the local life at all? It was a strictly schooling?
It was school and focusing on getting school done and on my own music here. Because while I was in school, I was doing calypso. Yeah. So my extra time would be producing my music and so on, etc.
Okay.
So I didn't party, but I interacted with persons in the music industry. So the producers for Marshall Montana, for David Rudder, for some of the greats that have interacted.
How influential were those people on your music?
Right. So a lot of people ask that because I studied in Trinidad. People think, oh, you got your influence from being in Trinidad, but my influence started long before Trinidad. So I already was a connoisseur of calypso music. So it's not because I was living there. It's the same influence that I would have had here. I had my father. I would listen to all of the greats before I went to Trinidad. What Trinidad offered me the opportunity to do is what was in my head, because I still produce all my music. So what was in my head, I was able to give to a producer or a studio so that it can be done. I mean, I played most of the music that are on my tracks anyway, right? So I can't say that there was a great influence on me by Trinidad, because by that time I had already had music before. I had already produced albums.
But somehow it must have enhanced your craft in some way.
Well, I think so, in terms of understanding that professionalism works.
Right.
And this is how you can be different. So, in terms of seeing Marshall concert live, the alternative concert, the year I went was the year he had Jumbie and Higher and High, which were two extraordinary songs. And he had this big choir on stage and so on, etc. You get ideas from those
I feel like if you ever seen Marshall perform live in Trinidad, that have to do something.
Yeah, man.
Especially as a musician, and it's anybody in entertainment. And in those times, it was different from now, where now I feel like it's a bit more watered down. He still is authentic, but it's not as authentic.
Right. So that was an amazing show. The alternative concert, especially when he had Jumbie and with Higher and High. I literally remember when he started off with Higher and High, and it was like the ground was shaking. You had no choice wherever you were standing. If you didn't jump, it is as if you're going to get crushed. So you just have to jump. And it's like the ground is shaking and pulsing. It was an amazing experience. So I pulled the professionalism out of those things and how they were able to do it, pay attention. But in terms of understanding the craft and so on, I was doing that long before.
Okay. So now you went to school, you were successful in your academic studies. Coming back home now, what was that like?
Right. So after school, as you said, I was very successful in school. When I came back, I started my own little consulting, and also I did lecturing at the Clarence my college while I was still doing my music. So it was music, it was lecturing, it was my consulting. So I was quite busy doing pretty decently as well. And then I was approached by a company, a regional company that is also based here, because they know I was an engineer. So they approached me to come and work with them. So they interviewed me. That year when I interviewed, my wife and I, we were just about to get married, right? She was based in Tortola, working. She's a lawyer. She was working at a prominent offshore law firm in Tortola at the time, in the BVI. And I mentioned in my interview, which was for a job here in St. Kitts, because it was at the location, the operations here, that my wife works in Tortola. The regional manager thought I said that my wife was from Tortola. So when they offered me the position, they didn't offer me the job here in St. Kitts. They offered me the job in Tortola. So I never interviewed for the job in Tortola. I interviewed for a job here. But then they offered me the position in Tortola because they thought it would be very easy for me to assimilate there, get all the requirements, all the permits and everything, except because my wife would have been from there. But she wasn't from there, she was just working there. But anyway, I left from lecturing and so on here, and I repositioned to Tortola, mainly because, again, I'm family oriented. We were a young couple, and that opportunity that my wife would have had in Tortola, she wouldn't be able to get that experience here. So I decided that, I'm going to put away some of the things I'm doing to support my wife, so that she can build the experience in Tortola. So then that's how I...
What year was that?
So that would have been early 2011.
Oh, and how long you stayed in Tortola?
About just under 3 years.
Okay, so how was that experience?
So, again, this was a very good experience for me, I must say, because the company that I worked for was a regional company and their standards were extraordinarily high. It was in the oil and gas industry. And so I learned a tremendous amount. So as an engineer, they hired me because I'm an engineer. Traditionally, they would often go more for chemical engineers, mechanical engineers, civil engineers, but I, as an electrical and computer engineer, they still offered me a position. I learned a tremendous amount. I got training at all different levels. I was able to travel the Caribbean and look at many of the operations. I learned a tremendous about operations management. So that experience was actually a very, very transformative experience for me in terms of preparing me even in the position that I am now, in understanding how to manage people, manage large operations, and stick to high standards. Because in the oil and gas industry, you wear the wrong clothes and you could literally kill yourself.
Right. So
it provided a very good. And then obviously I was there with my wife. She was also getting the experience. But then the call for politics came.
But wait, before we go, you have a song that take me the house.
Yes.
I feel like we missed that part of the journey. Speak to me about that specific song.
Right. So as I was singing, coming out of university and so on, etc., so I would have won my first crown in 2005, national crown, and then I did 4 consecutive crowns. Right. And then I also did some songs for soca. I won Soca Monarch a couple of times. And then leading up to 2010, I did a song called Take the Oath. I think Take the Oath might have been 2009. Right? Again, I've always been about country, uplifting my country, positivity. You check all my music, it's about
would you say that's your biggest song to date?
To Take the Oath?
Yeah.
I don't know if I would say that. I think that people would say maybe Unstoppable Force, because that one would match, and maybe one song. Some people might say the Calypsos, like
which is your favorite though?
So my wife would kill me if I actually state a favorite now, because she always says that I don't have a favorite for anything. It's hard to shop for me because you have
a wide variety.
Yes. So I can't say that I have a favorite song of mine.
But is it there one that hold a special space for you? A place for you?
A number of them. I think one song is, I think they're different ones for different reasons. So one song I think is that that song came together very, very well, where it is tremendously timeless. Right? I wrote that song when I had just finished university. I was a few months off before I went to my master's. I actually went back to Trinidad to spend some time. My wife was doing a law school there. And I literally, that song flowed so easily that I probably wrote that in a day also. Because after I usually do my music and my themes and so first, before I leave lyrics for last. It's the last thing, it's the easiest thing to, after you have everything in place. I just thought that everything came together for that song. So I really like that song. And it's a song I can sing anywhere in the world and people can appreciate that. So I think I really like that. I like By the Breath because it tells the story of you being under attack and you always having to stand up and fight, and people will come after you, and no matter how much they come after you, you're able to still win. So you have them being.
You have some real powerful songs, man. I feel, wouldn't you say you're a legend in terms of musically with St. Kitts?
Well, I would leave that for people to determine. I
feel like it's undeniable. For somebody to deny that at this point.
Yeah, I would leave that for the people to.
I feel like you're a musical legend. as it relates to St. Kitts and Nevis.
Yeah, I will let
You have some songs that will go down in the history. Like, them songs are St. Kitts staples, you know. When you hear those songs, you hear St. Kitts. But you would have said politics, Carl. No. Was that a difficult decision for you? Because you know how politics can be in St. Kitts.
Yeah. Definitely a difficult decision. One of the most life-changing decisions you would make. I was, going along my merry way. I had a young family. I didn't have any children as yet. I wanted to get my family. Remember, since early on, I was talking about how was a family is to me.
Throughout your story, the theme of your story is family, because you would have gone to Eva Tartola to be with your wife.
Yes, correct.
Trinidad to be with your wife.
Absolutely. So family was important. So it was a tough decision. I didn't intend to be in politics that early, because at that age when I was asked, I was only 29 years old when I was asked. I didn't intend to go into politics that early. I always was a keen student of politics. My family has been involved in politics. I felt that I had something to contribute in politics, but I always thought it would be later on in my life, because I really wanted to be settled. I don't want politics as a career. I don't want it to be something that I make money from. That has never been my intention at all. So I wanted to be very, very stable before entering that. Yes, I was at the time, but it came a bit too soon. If I had to choose, I would have definitely waited until later on, start my family, get that out of the way, and so on, etc., and then contribute, because St. Kitts and Nevis has been tremendous to me, providing me a platform for my academic and for my music career that, really, really helped me. So it was a difficult decision, but at the time, I've been a lifelong supporter of the St. Kitts and Nevis Labour Party and its philosophy. And at the time, my services were required. And as a true patriot of this country, if you're called to battle, you have to show up.
Right. Now, how did that affect your family? Because now music is entertainment is one thing, being an engineer is another thing, but politics is a whole different arena.
Correct.
How did that affect your family?
So my wife, if you think that I'm a supporter of the St. Kitts and Nevis Labour Party, my wife is even a bigger supporter. So while I had to think about this decision, because I have had exposure to politics before. My father has been involved in it at campaign management level for many, many years. So I have seen firsthand and experienced the rigors of politics. My wife was fully supportive immediately. She said, yes, you have to do it, Konris, because she obviously believes in my capability. She said, Konris, you're an honest man, you're this, you're that, you have all the things that are necessary. And I said to her, Shemawa, are you sure? When I get into this politics, you're going to hear things about yourself you never knew existed.
Right, definitely.
But she was completely supportive. And as I said, my father, who had been involved, he was the campaign manager for the St. Kitts and Nevis Labour Party for a long time. So he actually stayed out of discussing it with me. Because in our family, we really do believe in process. So he never encouraged me. He never discouraged me. He didn't discourage either.
Never discouraged.
And so I only spoke with him about it at the very end when I had done all of my own intervention and so on.
Right.
And obviously he would support that.
So you'd have entered the first election 2015,
yes,
and you came out successful. What was that campaign for you?
I think the campaign was good. Remember, I would have been at that time fairly popular, well known.
Well, not fairly, very popular.
Right? So people would have known who I was, and so they understood what I represented. My songs can be a manifesto, really, of what I would want to see for St. Kitts. So I'm glad I'm having St. Kitts and Nevis. I'm glad I have that opportunity to bring some of those dreams that I had in my songs to reality. So the campaign, I thought, was a good campaign. It was challenging, of course, because the administration at the time was a 20-year-old administration that is always going to meet political headwinds. And so that was challenging. And I was going up against someone who had been in this particular constituency for 26 years. He was the representative for this, so I was going up against a giant in the constituency. So it was challenging, but I think that, all the elements came together with my youth, my vigor, my academic background, my entertainment background, my ability to be able to man a stage. Those things were helpful.
Right. Now, in 2015, you would have won your seat, but your party lost.
Yes.
So you went into government as the opposition.
Right. I went into parliament.
In parliament.
Yes. An opposition.
Parliament.
Yes.
As an opposition. What was that experience like now?
Right. Well, I obviously you want to, when you run for representation, you want to be able to serve your people. In our small island politics, it's very difficult to do that from the opposition side. In fact, in St. Kitts and Nevis, there is no ability for you to really impact the government spending or projects from the opposition benches. And so I'm a representative, and people perhaps cannot get their full representation if the government is not going to listen to what you are saying. So although, in every parliament, every budget, I would be outlining what it is I would like to see for the community, etc. Especially in those times, and who was the leader at the time of the country and our opposition, they would have they would facilitate in no way any of the requests someone like me would have. So it would be a difficult time. So changes that you would want to see in the constituency, changes that you would want to see to people's lives, would not come. And then in that time in particular, if persons were seen to be associated with me as the opposition, that could put them in a problem, which is not a good thing. And that's something that we don't want to be a part of course, in our administration. Everybody must have a fair shot at the opportunities that exist. So it was challenging sitting in opposition with the type of government or administration you had at the time that would not give you the ability to support your constituency in any way.
Okay. Now, my question is, what's the difference between you, a young, brilliant-minded, basically a man with fresh ideas as a politician coming in, versus the conventional politician? What's the difference between you and a conventional politician?
Right. So I don't know if I would consider myself at all a conventional politician, because I am not going to do anything at the altar of politics. I serve a God, and so anything I do, I must be able to answer to that God. I often say my reward is not on earth, my reward is in heaven. So I am guided always by the principles on which I stand. So if it is that the conventional politician is thought of to do certain things, which people say, it's not always the case. People say politicians do. I'm not in it for that at all. I'm in it to actually, as I said, effectuate the change that I spoke of long before I entered politics. But there are things that you must be cognizant of, even as a young politician like myself, to understand that you cannot break down systems overnight.
Right.
You have to be able to manage the system that is presented to you. Doesn't mean that you have to do anything that corrupts yourself, etc. But you must be able to understand the system, and whatever goals you have, use your best ability to use what you have in the system to get it done.
Right. Now, you were part of the opposition. Now, then came an election. The former administration at this point, they would have won. But then, midway through that journey, they would have capitulated and called elections, where now your party is back in power. You have been given the opportunity now to basically implement things that you wouldn't have been able to do. What's this current situation like now versus before?
Right. So before, we couldn't implement a number of things that we want to see. I was humbled to be given the portfolio of public infrastructure, energy, utilities, domestic transport, ICT, and posts. Fortunately, that's all in my background. So electrical and computer engineer, ICT, etc. Public infrastructure, energy, electrical.
Yeah. Your academic background, your experience would have prepared you for
absolutely. Right. So in terms of project management, in terms of understanding, so in all of my technical departments, it's not going to be easy to pull any wool over my eyes, whether it is at energy, Skelec, whether it is in engineering, in the roads, whether it is at ICT, etc. There's a basic understanding of the material. So my background and experience has provided me the experience to take this opportunity and run with it. So as a result, we're able to effect a number of things, not just in my constituency, but around the country in terms of road developments.
Let's speak about road developments. What are some of your developments thus far and some of the future plans you have?
Right. So right now we've been engaged in maybe over $80-90 million worth of road developments.
Wow.
Right. So you have the St. Peter's Main Road, which stems from
that's a significant development.
From the airport roundabout all the way west, all the way up, right up to the top of St. Peter's in OGs.
That's an impressive one, because I would have lived in Nevis for all the time I've been here. I've been living in St. Kitts Nevis for like 12 years. Next month we'll be making 13. And I would have been living in Nevis. And every time I come to St. Kitts and have to go up that road, it was like it was a terrible experience. So that's something good.
Right. So that's one of the major projects. But apart from that, we have a number of communities that we had built out in years past that had a lot of dirt tracks.
Right.
So we have been building roads in those communities. So far we've done 7 of those communities. Stone Fort, which is in constituency number 4. You have Newton Ground, Race Course. We have St. Paul's. We have White House, which is up in St. Peter's as well. We have Shadwell West and West and South, which is on the border of 3 and 2, most of it in constituency number 3. You have Palmetto Point, that's down in the end, that's towards the end of constituency 3, and Boyd's View. All right. I think that's about 7. So those are major concrete new roads for persons who have built houses on dirt roads. We're also on a significant resurfacing campaign. Right. So the industrial site, Warner Park, Bay Road, you name it, Fines Avenue, Market Street. We're in George Street now. We recently did by the Newtown Primary School, Southwell Drive. We're in Sandy Point right now. We've been in Harris's. And this is all in this space of time that we've been there, which is significant. I don't think there's any period, 2.5-year period, that there has been that much development as so soon after an election.
Now, what are your future plans in terms of road? For the road infrastructure development?
Right. So one, I want people to be able to drive on the main and secondary roads in St. Kitts and not go into any pothole.
Really?
That is what the goal is.
Do you think that's an attainable goal within the time frame?
I'm going to try. Main and secondary roads. Now, there are tertiary roads as well that are intertwined and so on. But the main and secondary roads, we're trying to reduce the number of potholes. It's a natural occurrence. They will always occur. But we're trying to put a system in place to deal with them. And even if we have to deal with them temporarily, so that the hole doesn't exist and then we come back and deal with it completely, we're working on that. We also want to go into more communities, like these new concrete roads. So we want to do areas like Farm Meadows in Sandy Point, Bayview, other areas like West Farm that have these large communities that are building out and need roads in large and green acres or green tree. That's down in number 4. Some other areas in St. Paul's as well. And there are a number of these projects that we want to get to. Obviously, it's always constrained by the amount of capital you have available, but we're pushing and we're preparing. Public Works is already preparing so that when money becomes available, we can move forward. So that's one of the things I'm bringing to the table, is that I'm not waiting until I'm told that there is money there. I'm getting ready. So that when money becomes available and we launch a budget, we've done all the groundwork before. So those are some of the goals we have in.
No, as it relates to infrastructure, housing, climate change is a thing. How are you preparing for these changes in the environment?
Right.
Like hurricane season, they're saying the hurricanes are getting more violent and prevalent. So we have been fortunate enough to not have any hurricanes in the past, but we have to prepare for the future and the possibility of that happening.
Right.
So how are you preparing?
Okay, so these don't fall into my ministry, but I can just give a brief overview. So there's actually a ministry responsible for housing. So Public Works on my ministry doesn't actually do anything with housing. Also, in terms of so there is a ministry called Sustainable Development, which under that ministry they're responsible for the building codes on how to build. So when you go to planning and you get your permission, that ministry is working on fine-tuning those building codes to ensure that we continue to be resilient to the threats of hurricanes. So that is actually specialized in other ministries.
Okay, so under your ministry falls
so we have roads,
electricity,
we have water
and electricity. Let's speak about that now.
Yes.
This is a concern of all Kittitians.
Yes.
Because in recent times there has been water shortages, there have been electricity outage. As recent as yesterday, there were outages.
Right.
What's happening there?
Right. So one, you will always have outages, right? That's just something that will happen because things have to be turned off to be fixed.
Right.
But what we want to do is to minimize the occurrence of those. I'm going to come back. Let me start with water first. When I came to this ministry, unfortunately, if it is one part of the ministry which I saw very little work to go on, would have been water. Right? I met a report, not in this physical office, but in my office when we were at the other location, a report that outlined the challenges that we were going to be having over the next decade. That was 2014. And everything that it laid out, it basically said, if you don't do this, this is what's going to happen. And it started. So from 2015 onward, we have had a tremendous reduction in the amount of water that is able to be supplied to our residents. So many persons have been rationing for the last decade or more in terms of water. But there was no resources being put into water. So there were no new or very little. There was a project that was left in the former administration for well drilling. They did a little bit of that, but then they scrapped it and there were no new sources of water. Meanwhile, our country obviously is going to be growing in 10 years, plus the challenges of climate change, where rainfall reduced by almost 20% in the last decade. So you have less water from your traditional sources, no new sources, and the country continues to develop. So when we got in, we decided that we're going to change that, and we made a commitment that we're going to change that. So we immediately started increasing the water budget. To date, we have increased the water budget by over 400%. We went into Keon, which was a community that was challenged for decades. And we brought that community back to 24-hour water. We are now investing in a 50 million complete desalination plant with energy backup generators as well. That will provide 2 million gallons of water per day to be put into the Bastia system, the biggest that we've had in this country. A significant milestone where in a few months, Bastia and its environs, for the first time in 10 years, will be returned to 24-hour water. And we have just also completed the survey of the rest of the island to identify where our other underground water sources are. We are standing by for that report. I expect to get that report in another 2 or 3 weeks. But we have a driller lined up already. We've already gone to the procurement stage of identifying a driller, because I don't believe in doing things in series, do things in parallel. So the driller is ready to go. So as soon as the report of the survey is with us, and we know that this is the spot that has the most water, we're going to be ready to drill. So my intent is that by next year now, we will be able to deal with the remainder of the areas that are not 24 hours. So I have every confidence that we're doing what we need to do to bring St. Kitts and Nevis from a point where maybe 10% or 5% of the country had 24-hour water to 100% being 24-hour water in the not too distant future. And that is what I'm aiming to do in water. With respect to electricity now I'm an electrical engineer, and there are always going to be challenges. Why? Because the capital investment needed, for instance, to upgrade our outdated electrical grid is significant. So we have to be doing it in strategic pieces. Another mistake that was made in the energy sector is that there were no new investments in energy production. So we have generators there that are old as me, that are teetering. They're literally gonna crash. We know they're gonna crash, and some of them have crashed, and they take 6, 8, 10 months to repair because they're too old. So everything has to be fabricated again for them. So we have this situation where if one generator goes down, we have to have outages because there is no backup, and there was nothing done to create that space that is needed. Every power plant needs to have some redundancy, meaning a power plant must lose up to 2 generators basically and still be able to power everything. Our plant cannot do that, and this is
really?
No, it cannot.
To this day?
To this day, it cannot do that because it's something that should have been done some time ago. We are presently doing it now, so which means then that we're doing the investments necessary. So we're right now working with the Saudi Fund for Development, who's going to be funding an 18 megawatt plant. We use about 28, 29 megawatts now. So by doing an 18 megawatt plant, you now create the redundancy. Those are much more efficient generators. They can use 2 types of fuels, hopefully, that is diesel and LNG, so a cleaner gas. And once those are installed, it gives us the breathing room to be able to supply the whole grid, even when generators are down. So at present, we actually went in a temporary power plant. Why? Because we have to take some of those generators out to service them.
Right.
Right. And if we don't have the rental, and we take those out, then we have to be load shedding.
Yeah.
So we are forced to do this in order to bring those generators back up. So we are doing that. And the mistake that was made as well was that people thought that they should not invest in new generators because we're supposed to be going green. I completely support absolutely going green, but there's a way to do it. You must have redundancy. One, the type of power that we're looking for in renewables in terms of solar is not base load power, meaning it is not power that remains constant for 24 hours. So if you're going to not renew your generator and you say you're going to spend that money to go into solar, you get solar for, let's say, 12 hours of the day if you have some battery with it.
Yeah, but then when you
reach the next 12 hours, if you don't have a generator, you go in darkness. So you have to have that redundancy. The thing about having solar, it means the more expensive part of power generation is the fuel cost. Yes, a generator may cost $10 million or $20 million, for instance, just calling a figure. But the fuel to run that costs multiple times that. We perhaps spend almost $100 million in fuel. Wow. Yeah. So if a generator costs $10 million, what you're doing when you go solar is reducing your fuel costs. That is where the cost saving is. It should never be on the asset, because you need the asset in the times when your renewable energy is not up. There's going to come a time when we have geothermal and we have base load, and there will be no need for the asset because you have a base load power point that you can rely on. But we're not there yet. So it was foolish, really, and foolhardy previously to not bolster your power plant to be able to run even as you're doing your energy transition. So that's what we're doing now, and unfortunately, it takes time. Just to buy a regular transformer in the energy industry right now, it could be 12 months.
Wow. So is geothermal an option?
Yes. So geothermal is a big option, but again, the capital expenditure for that is humongous. So they just opened the bids for the drilling. So the exploration work has been done. So the drilling to drill the wells that are going to produce the heat to produce the energy. We have raised about $36 million to do that, and that's just to drill the holes.
Wow.
That's just to drill.
So that's a significant investment.
Right? And that's just, we're talking 5 holes there. Right?
That's crazy.
5 holes, $30-something million are there about, just, estimating what that will cost. Ballpark, depending on what it is. It could cost that much in terms of mobilization and drilling and so on, etc. And that's just the drilling. That has nothing to do with the establishment and the building of the power plant and the machines that are going to convert that heat into electricity. So it's a huge undertaking. But that is where we have to go, because if we have the base load power, we anticipate that Nevis has a significant geothermal potential. Some people have said up to 1 gigawatt, but even if it's not up to 1,000 megawatts, we have we are pretty sure we can get base load to supply both St. Kitts and Nevis.
From Nevis, because remember they have even the hot spring is a cool off point.
Yes.
So the geothermal potential is supposed to be significant in this area. Okay then. So what are the things you'd like to speak with the people about as it relates to your portfolio?
Right. So we spoke about energy, water, we spoke about roads. Another important part is ICT, information, communication, and technology. So right now we're working on the digital EID, which is an e-identification card that is going to be unique to you. You're going to have a unique number that you can be properly identified, a source of truth to know when you present that. This is who you really are, and it is verified so that you can do other business. So for instance,
how is that different from like a national ID?
Right. So no, this is a national ID is just printed and it's static. It doesn't provide you any information. Right? With your EID now, it will provide the necessary information for where you are. So you may show up at a bank, say, for instance, and eventually when it is fully fledged out, or fully integrated, when you show up at the bank and you want to start an account, your birth information will be verified, your present name will be verified, your police certificate will be updated.
So that cuts down a little bit the processes, because all those things are things you'd have to provide. Okay.
So that ID will interact with all of your information in the different places and only call it for the for where it is needed. So you go, you want to do your passport, renewal of the passport. Once you provide that ID and you are verified to be that person, it means then that it is interconnected to all of the information that it needs to be able to generate the passport. So that's the main difference. It's now a dynamic as opposed to a static piece of ID. So it grows and lives with you. So from the time you're born, you'll be issued a number. And so everything can be tracked. So imagine in healthcare, etc. Once you provide that particular healthcare provider will only have access to the information that they are allowed to have access to, and so on. So digital ID, you can look, Estonia was one of the first places that really revolutionized this EID, where they can literally go on, and we had the opportunity to visit. So the guy showed us, you just go online and they can start a bank account in 30 seconds.
Wow.
Start a business
because
1 million.
If all those information are verified and readily available, it takes away some of the process.
Correct. So you don't have to go and get a utility bill to prove your address. You don't have to go and get a birth certificate. You don't have to go and get a police certificate. You don't have to go to Inland Revenue, for instance, if there is something that requires that you would have paid your tax already because you have your ID, it will be linked to that. So when you go to apply for whatever, maybe the place that you apply to may not know that you don't have not paid your tax, but you will just know that you're not eligible, right? And you will then be able to see what might be your challenge. So we're working. So that is ongoing. Now that can't be seen until it's seen, because it's working in the background. You can't see like a road being built or anything like that. But we are advanced, and we're partnering with the Republic of China on Taiwan, who's financing part of that project. We've set up what is called a digital transformation management unit. that is headed by a former Minister of Government, Honorable Nigel Catty, and that is going to be integrating all the processes we have in government, bringing them together so that we have this central ecosystem based on the ID card to be able to access all of these government services. And we want to be able to automate all of the government services and integrate those that exist already. So those that have been done at Inland Revenue and others, etc., instead of redoing it, we're just going to have an interface that allows you to communicate with those things and pull in necessary information at the time.
Wow. I like that.
Yes.
Actually like that. That seems like a positive step towards
Yeah,
the
man. So
future.
that is going to be big. It's going to take time. It's not an easy undertaking. It takes a lot of resources, a lot of skill set, because it's not something you can walk off the street and do. You actually have to have the ability to make code. And one of our main focus is going to be the cybersecurity around that, because once you digitize information, we must also be able to protect it. So we want to make sure that we have multiple layers of that. The other thing that's connected to that, and another part of my ministry, is the Ministry of Post, where we're doing what is called a national addressing system. Now, in the Caribbean, you know how we give addresses. For you to come here, drive across Kenyon Street, pass by Ram Supermarket, you're going to see the building on the left-hand side, come up on the upstairs.
Yeah.
In developed countries like the United States, Canada, UK, you give 2 lines of address and you could find any address.
Any address, yeah.
Right?
Like
That
if you even want to order something,
Correct.
like once you put in, there is an AI in the system that's correcting the address for you.
Correct.
Right.
So that is what we're getting to now. So every address in St. Kitts will be like that. So we've already onboarded the consultants. These consultants have worked in places just like Washington, D.C., a lot of the major cities in the United States. They're also doing a similar project in the United States Virgin Islands. I think St. John of the U.S. Virgin Islands would have been the first small island that has gone to a similar addressing system like the United States. So over the next couple of months, we are working on that. So we have to name every street. Every house will be given a number. So if you live on Keon Street, your address will now change to 27 Keon Street, Bastia. And
Very specific.
Yes, and you'll have a zip code, or what we call a postal code, to identify one address to one property.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing, man. I feel like this was a very informative interview, you know? And it's something that I've always wanted to do, because like it's one thing to get information online, but to get it directly from the source, it's another thing, you know?
And I encourage you anytime to come and seek information. A lot of times there's a lot of information out there that is inaccurate. We are an open book, and I love sharing the information because I know that we're trying to do the best and trying to do it the right way. So any of these projects you can visit. I encourage you to go and have a look at the digital plant. It's a major undertaking.
Maybe one of these days we can do a little, you know?
Yeah, so what we'll do, we can do that.
We can organize a shoot, man, and explain what's going on.
You know, this you can visit our number of projects. I didn't speak about the projects that we support as a ministry. So we have projects that belong to us. Roads, water, those belong to us. But all of the other ministries, their projects belong to them. So we assist them by providing the technical support. So whether it is building a school, it's not our project. We don't finance it. We don't have the money. It is not. I am not in charge of that. But we provide the technical support by providing project management through public project design, etc., through public works. So we have a number of those projects going on, whether it is Joshua Obadiah School, whether it is the MRI at the building, whether it is the King Collins Stadium. All of these are supporting projects that we provide support for to ensure that they are done as well.
Minister, thank you for having the sit down with my people.
No problem.
Remember to like, share, and subscribe. A lot of amazing stuff coming. Again, thank you for having me to the minister. You know, I wish you the best in all your endeavors.
And thank you very much for this opportunity.
I feel like you're one of those politicians who there is no scandal, there is no...
No, man.
Yeah.
Well, why? You know, I don't... this is not politics for me. It's about what it is what I can get done, right? I don't believe I'm a very, as I said, very family oriented, very faith based. I value those things deeply. If I'm going to get leaks, it's going to be, I'm a stickler to process. I'm not deviating for anything in order to bring any disrepute into what I do. So when I go to sleep at night, I can let you evaluate everything I do and not have to worry. I don't have to be there. That's why I tell you, come anytime, go to any of my projects. We have freedom of information now, so through the proper channels, you can get all the information that you want. I want to be as transparent as possible because those things must never be a part of or distracting the excellent work that we're doing. And I want to thank all the staff in my ministries for coming on board with that type of mentality that, yes, I'm going to be pushing you. Yes, I'm going to be demanding a lot from you, but just do it in the right way. And I want to thank the government for sticking to that principle as well. We've passed some anti-corruption legislation. We've enforced integrity in public life, so we have to file all of our information, etc. It really takes the burden off of people thinking that you're doing things. I'm an open book. When you're a public servant, you have to give that confidence. So yes, you're not going to hear anything like that. There will be never any sort of truth behind anything like that. And anytime you hear them, come and ask me and I'll answer.
All right, Minister.
All right, man.
Until next time, people, remember to like, share, and subscribe. Well.
Perspectives Media. Perspectives Media.